Good morning. So this is a quick update from the Candlelight games Google Drive. So yesterday, Dell sent me his ERA files. This is Dell's version of, how can I say this? My EGE game, reimagined, where the array directs the outcome of the game. So instead of it being so you simulate a baseball game with one roll of the dice, you simulate basketball with one roll of the dice, simulate football with one roll of the dice. He also has a core document for how this works. They are completely free, and they are technically, how do I say this? They are first drafts, so they might be a little bit cryptic and a little bit confusing. If you have any questions about it, direct them to Dell because I can't particularly answer them. But they are available, and there's a baseball game, basketball, football, and the core book. It is basically it's not quite using the EGE system as designed. It's using the concepts, but well, you'll have to take a look. So that one, to let everybody know that's available. As of yesterday, I put that up. I, this morning, was able to finish and put up my Jason Graham football yardage fast game possession rules. This allows you, when you play fast games like drive time football, game-winning drive football, fast drive football, football time, any game that allows you to play possessions and resolve possessions. This will allow you to attribute yardage for the drive. It is standardized. So let's say I'm playing game-winning drive football, and the 1982 Raiders punt on the first drive of the game. The Raiders would get 15 run yards and 15 pass yards on that drive. And let's say the Broncos, on their roll of the dice, they fumble the ball away. They would get 25 pass yards. Excuse me, let's say it's a pass fumble. If you don't know, you just take the average. So let's just say it's a fumble, and we don't know, so it'd be 22. So we would divide 11 run yards and 11 pass yards for Denver. So the Raiders would have 15 running yards, 15 passing yards. Denver would have 11 and 11 with a fumble. Anyway, by the end of the game, you will have each team's total run yards and total pass yards, or drive totals, whatever you want to use. You just want to total up the game. And then I break down the average in the NFL. A winning team, about 60 plays per game if they win. So you can divide your total plays by 60 to kind of get an idea of your yards per play. Or you can multiply or divide your yards by 5.3 and get a number of plays. Either way, you can reverse engineer it. The losing team would use this set of numbers. In the CFL, use this set of numbers. And this for losers. And in the college football, use this set of numbers for winners, this set for losers. Then if you want to determine your quarterback's production, because we're going to get our plays, so we get our yardage, and we're going to get our plays here, but we want to know our quarterback's pass completion. So let's say in that game, that 1982 game between the Raiders and the Broncos, let's say the Raiders have of all of their box scores, the most instances on their box scores are multi-run touchdowns. And let's say the Raiders win 20-9. Plunkett or Wilson, whoever you're starting in your imaginary 1982 game-winning drive, Plunkett completes 56% of his passes for that game. Now I can divide my passing yardage and get my total number of attempts for Plunkett, right? Okay. And that'll also give me, so this would tell me the play this would tell me the number of plays based on yardage or vice versa. I then know that Plunkett, and again, it should say that plays are based on, somewhere here it should say it's based on, play distribution is considered balanced. So in the NFL, it'd be 30-30. However, let's say that Raider team had 3 rushing touchdowns. The Raiders would have 33 rushes in the game. So we know plunk it through 30 passes, divide that by 56. We know how many completions he had. And then we can use our era charts to dictate the top rushing back based on percentage and the top receiver based on percentage for completions. Okay, so it's just a way to get stats. So any fast play possession football game that you play that doesn't feature a way to simulate statistics, you can use this with any game. Football time, game-winning drive, momentum football. Momentum football might have its own stat allocation formula. I can't remember if momentum football does. I think they do. I think momentum football has its own way to simulate stats, if I remember right. Football time. I'm trying to think of other games. Gridiron. I know gridiron, of course, you would have, gridiron, old era. This would, probably none of this would be accurate for old era football, but so anyway, it would just give you a way to generate, at least know what every drive's worth in yardage, so you can determine how much they ran for and passed for by the end of the game. If you want to then find out plays and quarterback pass and who, what the top back carried the ball in the game for, and then the top receiver and receptions, these would so slowly it works down from the most important is yards in the game. Then it works down to how many plays is that. Then it works down to what your quarterback's pass completion for the game would have been. And then it works down to how you qualify for Canadian and college ball. How do you qualify for post-Super Bowl era? What is the adjustments to yardage based on the NFL? So, for instance, let's say I'm playing a 1965 game. I would add to both teams 10 yards to their rush total. So I would whatever they earn rushing for the game in the 60s, we're going to add 10 yards to that for each team. So let's say the Broncos finished with 102, they're going to be 112. Say the Raiders finished, let's say it's 1960 AFL, and the Raiders finished with 92. Add 10, they get 102. Broncos get 112. NFL post 78, we had 15 passing yards to each game. Modern Canadian ball, you're going to add 20 pass yards to the total. Modern college ball, you're going to add 15 yards rushing and 15 yards passing to each column. Early era Canadian ball, you're going to add 5 to the passing, 10 to the rushing. And early college ball, you're going to add 20 yards rushing per game. So this would allow you, once you get your tallies for the game, you can come down here and look at the era and make those adjustments. And then there's the distribution example of how we assume balanced. But in the 79 example, Terry Bradshaw ran for 3 TDs, so they would have 33 runs, but Bradshaw also 3 touchdowns and an interception, so 32. So the Steelers would have had 65 total plays, thanks to the run touchdowns on the box score and the interception, a pass touchdown on the box score. So we now know that the Steelers ran 33 times for 3 touchdowns, and we know that Stabler passed 32 times with a touchdown and an interception. I can then, from this number, assign my yardage, and then from this number, I can get the number of carries Franco Harris had, or the number of receptions Lynn Swann had, right? Just for your leaders. Okay, so that'll give you an idea. And again, everything works down. Most important, let's just find out how many yards we get based on drive results for the game. Then we can go further. We can then drill down into more detailed statistics. But anyway, that's available. So I got that done. That you will find in the football game stuff file. You'll find Dell's ERA games in the Dell's folder, Dell's games folder. And I updated the EG hockey game this morning. There were a couple things bothering me. This is an updated file, although it still says 1.0. So if you download this, you're going to want to copy it over your old 1.0. I didn't change the file number. I should have, but I didn't. As a matter of fact, let's just do that right now. This will be 1.1. There we go. Okay, so now you can just download this and add it. And what did I do? Well, first I cleaned up a couple of typos. More importantly, though, I fixed the prowess effect. Remember, 5 is greater than all of the 5s. 4 is greater than 4, 3, 2, 1. 3 is greater than 3, 2, 1. 2 is greater than 2 and 1, and 1 is greater than 1. This would be an offensive goal. So if a 5 offensive goal gets a goal, no one can stop him except the goalie. Okay, that's how simple that is. Assists, for instance, irrelevant. This is only for goal shooting. Okay, prowess effect. So I fixed that. Also, you will have noticed in team creation, I had a base that allowed you to avoid a gambled roll. I removed that because it dawned on me that you could just give all of your skaters 2 or 12 or whatever, and if you happen to roll a 2 on any turn, and you had 15, you had 13 offensive players with a 2, that's 15 goals on one roll, right? That would have to be stopped by the other team. The odds are the team's going to have a goalie who stops 2s or players that stop 2s. It just dawned on me, it completely extremes the game to a broken. So I took that. You are no longer allowed to assign numbers. You have to roll. What that's going to do is keep everything randomly balanced between every team and every player. But what it's also going to do is it's going to put more numbers in that center frame from 6, 7, and 8. If you roll a 7, you're screwed. You don't get a second number or whatever, right? For instance, this guy clearly he either rolled a 0 on the creation charts or he rolled a 7 when he was creating his number. Either way, he ends up with no defensive grade. So I just removed that base concept because I woke up at 2 in the morning and went, oh, shite. If somebody chose to just go 2, 12, 2, 12, 2 all the way down the line, anytime a 2 comes up, that's going to be a lot of opportunities to score a goal. You could have a chance to score 6 goals in one turn because the other team probably doesn't have any 2s or goalies that can stop it. And the final adjustment was I figured out the goalie value. Very simple, because goalies don't have prowess. The goalie value is going to be based on their largest number. So, for instance, this goalie, his best number is 9. It's based on their highest number. His highest number is 9, so he's worth 9. So in the off season, you'll roll 2d6. If I roll a 9, 10, 11, or 12, he will leave as a free agent. If he's on the market, teams can sign him if they can roll a 9, 10, 11, or 12. Okay, backup goalie, I roll a 5+, he'll leave the team. And teams can sign him off the street with a 5 or better roll. So that way we fix our goalie value issue. Okay, so those things have been fixed. And there you go. I think that's it. Nothing else. I haven't changed or modified anything else. As I play more of the hockey game, there may be updates to this game. But right now, I think if you do it as designed and follow the rules, you're still going to have those matchups that sometimes could create really fascinating outcomes. But for the most part, if everything is done the way it's designed, you're going to have pretty dynamic teams, and it's going to create interesting matchups. What you may find is there could be turns where, like this team, right, could score. This team could score. If I rolled an 8, they can score 1, 2, 3 goals. So in one turn, this team could light up the net for 3 goals. 1, 2, 3. If the opposing team does not have stops, so this team, for instance, can only stop 8, 1, 2 times. But here's the problem. If it's a 5 shooter, so this guy is a 3, he could stop this guy, and he could stop, that's it. So he can only stop one of those 3 goals. This guy's a 3, he can only stop the 1 goal, and the goalie can't stop an 8, right? So 3, this guy's a 3, so we can only stop 1. So they would score in that 1 roll of an 8, in that 1 turn, they would score 2 goals. So this team, against itself, would score 2 goals on a roll of 8. So imagine in your, imagine during your 15 turns, If you're using, again, I also make note that feel free to adjust that. If you think the scores are too low or too high, you can adjust the timing. But let's say I'm using the 5, the default 5. There's a very good chance I'm going to roll 8 3 or 4 times in a game. This team can average anywhere from 4 to 8 goals, depending on who they're facing, on a roll of 8. So you can see how this could get quickly out of hand, which is where you might want to change that every team gets 1. There's only 3 turns in a period, right? Or, as I said before, this is a base rule book showing you how this can work. You could very easily set up lines, and then ultimately every turn you change lines. So when you roll that 4-minute window, that's your first line with the top defensive unit, and then the second turn is the second line, second defensive unit. Third turn is the third line, first unit. Fourth turn is your back to your top line. Whatever, right? You see my point. So you could also, and that means you can only use the guys that are on the ice for that turn. That would be ideal, right? That would be probably the best way to play the game to avoid one of those turns where you do see, because you're going to see games where there are going to be teams that have multiple instances that are pretty high range, but they'll face a team that can't stop them, and they could get really ugly. However, over the course of time, it might all work out. So what's really cool about the EGE system, you can make every turn based on which line's on the ice. And then it's only that line of players that can benefit from that turn. I believe that would be the perfect way to play a full hockey game. Because then you could have 4 lines or 5 lines. So line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, and then back to the top. Line 1, we get one more shot on the ice. So then you could have 4 lines and 3 defensive lines, or whatever you want to do, right? So you could have even bigger rosters. So, all right, but I wanted to let everybody know I updated that as well this morning. So one more time, really quick, Dell has released his ERA 3 games and the core book. It's basically EGE, but it's one roll decides the game. So not the turns. It's one roll, game's over, and you know who won or lost or whatever. Okay, and then we have, I added my how to simulate yardage based, if you're playing possession-based football games. Really good, again, for football time, game-winning drive football, fast drive football, drive time football by John Turnbull. So, any possession-based football game, you can produce yardage, standardized yardage. And then last but not least, I've already updated the hockey file. Okay. And then one more thing real quick here, for those who don't know, I have this morning published Parallax Football E. So there is Parallax Football Complete, there's Parallax Football Simple Solo, and then this morning I was able to finish Parallax Football E. And what E does is it uses the simple, so it's like the simple game. So there's Simple Solo, which just kind of streamlines things to make it easier for the solo player. E is the simple solo rules, but it uses variable special teams and E event charts. So this would be really good for the solo player who wants variable special teams results and wants to see events as opposed to locked values. What that means is when you throw a pass in Parallax Football, if you roll an 11, it'll tell you it's intercepted by a unit. So if I'm a C passing team and I roll an 11, when I drop back to pass, it's picked off by the linebacker, LB linebacker, an 11. It's automatic. Then you go right to the return chart and you check what the linebacker does. In Parallax Football E, 11 on the C charts is an event. And C has its own event charts. And now you roll that event chart, tells you if it's a sack or a fumble or an interception. And it'll tell you how bad the sack was. It'll tell you who picked it off. So what this does is it gives dynamism to the, instead of it being a locked result, sack or interception, it then lets you go to a dynamic chart to find out what the event was, a sack or an interception or a fumble or whatever. And of course, variable special teams is exactly that. Instead of static special teams, the place kicker kicks it off and it'll tell you where the ball lands. The kick returner for the other team returns it. It'll tell you how far based on his rating. So, but you roll a die. So it's a variable kick return. It's a variable kickoff. It's a variable punt and a variable punt return. And the field goal charts have been updated to better exemplify the entire history of pro football, not just not early era, but not just pre-Super Bowl era. So Parallax Football Complete is loaded with options, including head-to-head defense, and you can play any type of football: high school, indoor, Canadian, college, pro, and fictional. The simple book and Parallax E take all those options out and allow the solo player a faster, more focused play. This version adds events and variable special charts. This is probably, I would argue this might be the single best version for people who play solo, period, without a doubt, especially if you want variable special teams and you like the idea of an event instead of a locked sack or locked fumble or locked interception on the pass charts. You now roll to find out if it's a sack or an interception or whatever. So it creates a secondary roll. So if an event comes up now, when you roll for the pass, if an event comes up, you got to do a secondary die 6 roll. Obviously, for special teams, you're going to roll for the kickoff and you're going to roll D6 for the return. But again, at least now those who want those things can get them in Parallax Football E. The price for all versions is $9. So this is larger. This is 7x10, cleaner, larger book. The solo, simple solo is also simple solo. Here's the Parallax Football color booklet. This is A5, so this is smaller. Is it A5? I think it's 6x9. No, it's A5. So this is meant to be small, portable, and color, and it's the complete version. So it's perfect for head-to-head with all the defensive options and all of the rule options. So that's a great version if you want a portable color. Again, I've said it before, Parallax Football is my flagship football game. So yes, there are multiple books and versions. 7x10, a solo version with event charts and variable special teams. And then there's the brand new A5 small portable color version of the complete, which again allows for high school, Canadian, etc., etc. Then there is Parallax Football Complete, which is the 6x9 paperback, which is again the complete has high school, indoor, college, as well as all the defensive options for head-to-head play. It obviously can be played solo, but it has more defensive nuance to it. And then there is simple somewhere here. And then the hardcover, which is a complete hardcover, 6x9. And then there's, I'm not even certain this is still available. I think I pulled this, so why it's showing up here, I don't know. I don't think you can buy this anymore. And then there's simple solo, which is 7x10. It simplifies the game, so there's less steps for the solo player. It also streamlines defense to extremes. And it uses static special teams with no events. So that should bring everybody up to date. Now, but the very latest, finished it early this morning. It's done. And again, for the solo player who wants variable special teams and events for dynamism, but yet wants to still keep the game focused for solo play, this is probably the ideal way to play right here. So, all right, everybody. Bye-bye.